Hello and welcome to the RARR gameplay tutorial video. In this short video we'll go over the basics of how to play RARR, Ape's monster building city stomping card game. First, let's look at the cards. The monster, or kaiju cards, each feature a different terrifying monster, along with a syllable that helps build the monster's name, and power symbols that indicate the monster's strength. At the beginning of the game, each player selects one monster. Katakana cards contain syllables and powers. Players draft 3 katakana cards at the beginning of the game. Then they select 2 of them to combine with the monster card and remove the 3rd katakana card from the game. Combine the 2 katakana cards with the monster card to give the monster its name and its full set of powers. Arrange the cards any way you want to create a unique monster name. Add together the power symbols at the bottom of the 3 cards to come up with the monster's total power. Our monster, Jigoka, has 7 radioactive power, 2 toxic power, and 3 fire power. It has no electricity power. To save screen space, we'll remove the monster and katakana cards and add the total power to the area on the bottom left. Next, let's look at the power cards. Power is used to fuel your monster's rampage through the cities. You'll draft power cards in the same way that you drafted katakana cards, except that each player will get 12 power cards. There are power cards for each of the 4 monster powers in the game: fire, electricity, toxic, and radioactive. They range in value from 1 to 3, with 1 being the most common. Each player also gets a 1, 2, and 3 wild card that counts as any of the powers. As we'll explain later, players get new power cards at the start of every round, but only 1 set of wild cards for the whole game. Alright, let's play. First, the player that's most recently seen a giant monster film is designated the angriest monster. He turns over the top 6 cards of the city deck. For the basic game, the colors and symbols on the city cards don't matter. Only the number of victory points, which range from 1 to 5. The angriest monster then selects one of the cards for the players to battle over, and places the others aside. In this case, he selects New York, which is worth 5 victory points to the player that can get it. The battle for New York City begins. Since we selected the city to battle, we start by adding a number of power cards from our hand face up in our area of the table. In this case, we start by playing both our toxic cards. When playing power cards, you're trying to lay down more power than all the other players that are battling for the city. The amount of power played is determined by adding together the sum of each power type, multiplied by the number of cards played. So in our example, we played a 3 toxic and a 1 toxic, for a total of 4. Multiply that by 2 since we played 2 cards, and we have 8 points played toward New York. That's a good opening play. Now let's see who else is interested in New York. One of the other players passes, and so is out of contention for New York City. The second opponent lays down enough power to raise the value to 10, and the third opponent raises it to 12. So when it gets back to us, we can either pass, or lay down enough power to raise our value from 8 to something over 12. New York City is worth 5 points. That's too good for us to pass up, so we decide to raise our power total. We play 2 of our fire cards for 8 more points, giving us a total power of 16. You'll see in the lower left that we could have played up to 3 fire cards, but let's hold one back for the next city. Our 2 opponents that are still in contention for New York need to beat 16 power. The player who previously bid 10 passes. Note that when a player passes, they can return one of the cards they used to battle for the city back to their hand. The other cards are discarded. The last player to pass can keep 2 cards. The last remaining opponent battling for New York plays enough power to raise the value to 24. It's time for us to get serious. We want to win this, but we've got to keep some of our cards, since there are still 5 more cities to battle for. We obviously won't be able to bid on all 6 cities, but we should plan to battle for at least 1 more. Note that even though we have a fire card left, we cannot play the same power twice when battling for a city. We also cannot play our electricity card, since by looking at the bottom left, we see that our monster doesn't have any electrical power. Judging by the number of cards left in our opponent's hand, and what he's played so far, we don't think he's got much left. So we keep back some of our radioactive cards and play enough to raise the total to 31. Our 1 remaining opponent passes, leaving New York City for us to rampage. We discard all the cards we used to battle and take New York into our score pile. We'll battle for one more city to illustrate the use of wild cards and how to use power cards face down. The person that dropped out of battling for the previous city last is the new angriest monster. He selects Cape Town, but passes because he has his sights set on bigger cities. We are next, and we lay our single remaining fire card for 1 power. When it gets back around to us again, the high power is now 28. We go all out and play our remaining radioactive cards. We really want the extra 3 points that Cape Town would give us, so we add in our value 3 wild card. Remember, even though we draft new power cards when we draw 6 new cities at the start of each of the game's 3 rounds, wild cards are removed from the game once they're used. The advanced rules allow us to add power cards face down into a stack. Even though they don't add to the sum, they do add to the multiplier. We'll add in our electricity card, since we can't use it for anything else. We turn it face down and sideways. So our radioactive stack total is 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3, plus 0 for the face down card, times 5 for a total of 40. Added to the 1 from our fire card and we have 41. Our opponents let us have Cape Town. Our city battling is over until next round though, when we draft another 12 power cards. Still, an 8-point round is pretty spectacular. If you're watching this video while the Kickstarter project is in progress, then we encourage you to pledge for some great rewards. For more information, check out our website at apegames.com/RARRRR. Thanks for watching.